Come on. Here we go. Welcome, everybody. This is the Ziegler John Maxwell Bible Leader Bubble Training. We are reading the John Maxwell Bible Study Bible Bubbles and discussing how they impact today's business. And we are currently, we started this journey, for those of you that are new, we started this journey July 18th, 2022. And we are currently in Jeremiah, and we are in chapter 23, the righteous branch. And we, on Friday, we discussed the changing of the guard when leaders need to be replaced. What does it look like? And how do we do that? And pardon the dogs in the background. It's always fun when you have animals and mom comes home, because mom is super important and they want to let me know that mom is important. All right. So the changing of the guard when leaders need to be replaced. God does not hesitate to remove poor or wicked leaders. And beyond their removal, God pronounces his judgment on them. Jeremiah 23 supplies us with a good evaluation tool to recognize what God values in a leader and what God constitutes grounds for dismissal and replacement. Woo! Excuse me. Study the characteristics of the kind of leaders God promised to replace. So here is his promise. Leaders who destroy their people instead of developing them. Leaders who scatter their people instead of uniting them in a cause. Leaders who abandon their people in fear instead of remaining responsible. Leaders who act in self-serving and unjust ways instead of standing for the truth. Leaders who lie as though there were no God. Leaders who lead their people astray instead of guiding them into security. Leaders who foster evil and deceit instead of integrity and honesty. And leaders who fill people with false hope rather than speaking God's word. God didn't merely threaten to remove bad leaders. He also promised to raise up a righteous branch from the line of David to replace these artificial leaders. Today, we know that that righteous branch has a beautiful name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Woo! Amen. So as we go through here, I had read, on Friday, read the verses 1 through 16. And I'm gonna go ahead and reread them and then reread the changing of the guard, because I think there's some beauty in what has been mentioned here. Woe to the shepherds who are destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture. Can you hear me okay, Dee? I just want to check in.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm not going in and out?
No.
Okay, perfect. Because my screen keeps shutting down, so I don't see, and that hasn't happened before, and I just want to make sure you still hear me when it does shut down. Okay.
So far, we're good.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Woe to the shepherds who are destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture, declares the Lord. Therefore, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says to the shepherds who tend my people: because you have scattered my flock and driven them away and have not bestowed care on them, I will bestow punishment on you for the evil you have done, declares the Lord. I myself will gather the remnant of my flock out of all of the countries where I have driven them and will bring them back to their pasture, where they will be fruitful, increase in number. I will place shepherds over them who will tend them, and they will no longer be afraid or terrified, nor will any be missing, declares the Lord. Now, as I read this last week, one of the things that I thought about is, if we expand our businesses too fast and without integrity, what can happen is a mess. And we have to then draw our supplies back in. We have to draw our people back to corporate headquarters. We have to draw in the reins, restore integrity before we expand again. So this happens many, many times with poor leaders that aren't paying attention to the pages and the pieces and the financials behind the scenes. So this is a very real thing in today's world. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will raise up for David a righteous branch, a king who will reign wisely and do what is just and right in the land. In his days, Judah will be saved and Israel will live in safety. This is the name by which he will be called, the Lord, our righteous Savior. So then the days are coming, declares the Lord, when people will no longer say, as surely as the Lord lives, who brought the Israelites up out of Egypt? But they will say, as surely as the Lord lives, who brought the descendants of Israel up out of the land of the north and out of all the countries where he had banished them? Then they will live in their own land. Lying prophets. Concerning the prophets, my heart is broken within me. All my bones tremble. I am like a drunken man, like a strong man overcome by wine, because of the Lord and his holy words. The land is full of adulterers because of the curse. The land lies parched, and the pastures in the wilderness are withered. The prophets follow an evil course and use their power unjustly. I mean, imagine what this is. This is a business, and we have the frustration of a bad president with bad vice presidents. And you, as the owner of the company, have to come in and take charge. Clean house. Both prophet and priest are godless. Even in my temple, I find their wickedness, declares the Lord. Therefore, their path will become slippery. They will be banished to darkness, and there they will fall. I will bring disaster on them in the year they are punished, declares the Lord. Among the prophets of Samaria, I saw this repulsive thing. They prophesied by Baal and led my people Israel astray. And among the prophets of Jerusalem, I have seen something horrible. They commit adultery and live a lie. They strengthen the hands of evildoers so that not one of them turns from their wickedness. They are all like Sodom to me. The people of Jerusalem are like Gomorrah. Therefore, this is what the Lord Almighty says concerning the prophets. I will make them eat bitter food and drink poison water, because from the prophets of Jerusalem, ungodliness has spread throughout the land. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Do not listen to what the prophets are prophesying to you. They fill you with false hopes. They speak visions from their own minds, not from the mouth of the Lord. And if you think about it, this in business, we're dealing with, lying and thievery and mismanagement of funds and all this stuff. So an owner can come in and do the same thing God has done. Now, we may not be able to poison them in today's business, but we can take them out, remove them. So I want to share the microphone and just hear what you all have heard so far and see what's there and present for you. And with that, I'm going to start it off with Sister Catherine. The mic is yours.
Wow. Coach, this is deep. When leaders are in position and your life is also on the line with theirs, because here, these leaders, what they're doing is causing problems even for those that are up under them. It's going to damage the whole lineage, the whole, this messes up your entire business. All people are touched. And it's sad when you got other people working under you, and then the people that's on top, when they mess up, it messes up everything. Because I know for my husband and I, when we were renting from another business company. They owned the building and we were just renters. And the building foreclosed, and he never told the people in the building that was renting from him. He just left. And the Lord did bless and sent in a cop to come in and let us coach know that that building was going to be on, foreclosing on a Friday, and this was on like a Wednesday, and we had to be out of the building. And or if not, everything that we own would have gone down with that, because foreclosures, they don't play. But we were informed, and by God is the one that helped us. And that's what I'm looking at here in what you just read in 23. How did God look out for the people? Even though those leaders are wicked, and even though those leaders did not do what they were supposed to be doing, God looked out for the flock. So I'm just so thankful that the innocent ones, God do look out for them, because there are leaders that is just out there wicked all for themselves. They don't look out for anyone else, just for themselves, and they cause problems for others. And so we have to be careful as leaders, make sure that we have everything lined up so that other people could be able to follow what we have here. And when things are being questioned, they can just look at our files. They can just look up at what we have set up and see that it's all in order. And you want that. You want to make sure everything's lined up with the, let's just say IRS or the state, your laws, want to make sure everything's lined up legally. So that's my share on that. It's so important to make sure that, you're obedient to what God has assigned to us to do here. I pass the mic back over to you, Coach.
Thank you so much, Sister Catherine. And with that, I want to pass the mic over to Dee.
I think what I'm getting out of it is that whenever we're put in a leadership position, whether it's in the home or in business or anywhere, that other people's lives are going to be affected by what we do and what we don't do. And I think, and particularly, I guess, maybe as things get bigger and bigger, we tend to not really keep this in mind. And we may not be as involved with every aspect of everything as things get bigger. And I think I mentioned before of The Undercover Boss. What a wonderful show that is, where people of big corporations, business chains and things will disguise themselves and become workers in different parts of their company, and learn what's really going on, problems that they just aren't aware of, and the lives of the people that are being affected by decisions that people in higher positions are making. And I think it would really really help everybody, if we can just become more and more aware of how our decisions are affecting other people's. It's not just, a business, and it's not just a home, or a country, or whatever. There are other people's lives that are being affected by what we do. I guess that's it.
Thank you so much, Dee. And I pass the mic over to So. If you'd like to share, So. If not, no worries. We can move past too. So it's up to you. If you'd like to. Go ahead.
I'm primarily listening, but the topic is definitely something I'm very interested in. Yeah, primarily listening. But thank you for inviting me to talk.
Awesome. And if you do, I won't bug you again, but if you do want to say something, just flash your mic, okay? And with that, I pass the mic over to Coach C.
Hey, Coach. Hey, great lesson, great topic. When I was in the military, anytime you go to a new duty station, you have a different leader. And then you get to spend, 5 to 10 minutes meeting that leader on a one-on-one. One of the things I've always, did, Coach, was I would ask, you get a chance to hear his philosophy, and then he says, hey, you got any questions for me? And the only question I would always have is, are you a believer? And it would throw him off, because, in a military environment, they don't necessarily talk about faith, but, we're in a session where he's given me the liberty to ask, what's important to me. And I always asked him that question because I wanted to know, when he finds himself in a situation that's beyond his control, where does he look for guidance? And so when I asked that question, are you a believer? I am really looking deeper into his thought process and his source and his strength. Because if he would say no, to me, I would understand, well, that's the extent that I could go to him about matters is just to the point that he knows, which would be just the typical military stuff. But if it was something beyond our scope of work in the military, I could not lean on him for that because he doesn't believe. So his leadership is capped off to the extent that he believes, and I would govern myself accordingly. And I will always be kind of leery of that because now I'm entrusted in this man's leadership for the next 3 years of my life, and I know that I can only go to him specifically with military stuff alone. I mean, there's no mentor, there's no advice that he could offer me outside of that, and oftentimes we're looking not just to have leaders, but to build those relationships, right? Where we feel that we can just share non-military related stuff and, ask questions beyond, about life in general. And that I realized that he was limited with what he could share with me as a leader. And so on, and so when things got tough, whether we were in a deployment situation or where, there was something more serious on the line, I would be more skeptical of his leadership because of the fact that he wasn't a believer. And that's just something that I use for myself. That's just something, a boundary that I create for myself to, hey, know what your limitations are, and if a person, if they would tell me they were a believer, then I would see so many more, opportunities for me to get guidance. And so when I see this, I'm more skeptical of what a leader is capable of not doing, or their integrity, or, because they're putting their reliability in themselves. They're putting everything on their shoulders. And I know that as human beings, we all, get to a point where we hit a wall. What was scary for me is like this guy had nothing beyond himself when he hit a wall. And that was scary to deploy with a leader like that, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you so much, Coach C. Appreciate that. Appreciate the insight. Just wonderful. And with that, I'm going to pass it across the Atlantic Ocean to the evening. Ruth.
An interesting thought about when things become much bigger. Do we lose our oversight on our responsibility to others because we become overwhelmed? Mm-hmm. I think a bigger problem is all of the influences around us when we're juggling so many things. that we're trying to keep in line, and our priorities become stretched and we're drawn away from what we know is our ultimate responsibility, to keep everything in line. Because what also impacts on us is all of the other stakeholders, as well as the people that we lead, that take from our resources as a result of them not fulfilling their duties to our organisation as outside participants. And I bring into that actually because I deal with government departments and other business organisations as part of the work that I do all the time. And with all of the overwhelm of implementing artificial intelligence into the mix and continuous bombardment with new regulations, letters that are all automated to everybody that cause concern and worry. And yet at the same time, in this world, it's taking us months to get responses from people, and yet they don't stop that continuous bombardment of what they think is right and reasonable, and chasing everybody up for what they feel the regulations say is what should be happening. And we implement new system upon new system, and it still doesn't happen. So this afternoon I had a conversation about various letters and things, and I said, the paperwork's gone in, but they won't stop their letters until they've actually looked at something and decided on what their response is. And that's what I think needs to change. We can only be responsible for reacting to what we need to do and analysing the situation and supporting the people around us or those that we're working with and for. But it doesn't just stop there. It's the extraneous influences that sap our resources far more, which we have no control over. But then when I'm speaking with somebody, instead of my saying, I can't do anything about it, I say, all we can do is put the right information to them, and then I monitor everything to make sure that I'm always on top of what is happening, so that I can always contact people and say, right, this is where we are now, and make sure that nothing detrimental occurs that cannot be undone. And that's all we can do in this day and age, because we're all facing far more situations that are totally outside of our control. And that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Appreciate you. And I just want to say thank you to Harsh Kumar, who's sending messages to us on X, and also How Sexy Candy Be, who is also sending out messages. Really appreciate both of you being here and listening in. We currently, just to let people know, we currently have 18 people listening in on X and 1 on Facebook. So I just want everybody to know this, what you're sharing and what we're up to here really does make a difference. It is super powerful to hear this information, how it impacts each of you, and then how it shows up for you in business. So I acknowledge each of you that have shared so far, and we will continue to move forward. And thank you for paying attention and participating, because this is what this room is for. It really is to look and see, how does all this fit with today's modern business? The next Bible bubble is called vision. Imagine that, after we're just talking about how it looks. How do we recognize a vision as God-given or as man-made? First, does it align with the word of God, the nature of God, and the ways of God? Second, does it advance God's kingdom and not necessarily the leader? Third, does it bless other people? And finally, does the vision stand the test of time? And this is speaking to Jeremiah chapter 23, verses 13 to 40. All right. So let's see here. Now, I'm actually just stepping ahead here to look and see, as we continue to go into the next chapters. We have 2 baskets of figs, 70 years of captivity, the cup of God's wrath, and then Jeremiah threatened with death. And then we go to Judah to serve Nebuchadnezzar. And God uses the unrighteous leader to prune the righteous. Woohoo! Wow. While God never ordains false leaders, he may use wicked leaders, even self-appointed ones, to perform his purposes. What an irony. God warns against false leaders and simultaneously uses an evil king, the Babylonian Nebuchadnezzar, to prune the people he calls his own. Jeremiah 27 helps us to see an important truth regarding how God carries out his will in history. So 2 things here. 1, his moral will. God instructs us to lead with a heart of integrity. We must not lead without his approval, but it is our choice. We learn this lesson from the false prophets of Jeremiah's day. In his sovereign will, God may choose to use any leader to accomplish his purposes. It is God's choice. We learn this lesson from King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. What an irony. So in both of these Bible bubbles, and we're looking at the vision, is it God-given or man-made? And is it his moral will or his sovereign will? What do you see in this? What do you see about moral versus sovereign, about the will and the ability? The ability to see the vision and then see a way to prune the tree. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Sister Catherine. Sister Catherine, what do you think?
Well, with a God-given vision, it goes on even if after the man or the woman perish, or leave this earth, their work continue on, and that work is not just for them personally, but it help others. And that's why we're here in this earth realm. We're here to help one another. When we get into a selfish realm, just me, my, and I, it causes problems, and you just die within yourself. It helps no one. We really need to make sure that we're looking out for others. So when we set up our businesses, we have to make sure that we're able to help someone else, train someone else, bless someone else, make sure that the doors is open so others can prosper as well. And when we do that, our God is able to bless us and increase us even more, and to be able to leave a healthy legacy here in this earth realm that others can survive from. Others was able to receive hope and know that, hey, through their leadership, that when they were here on this earth realm, it brought blessings to my home. It brought blessings to even my business. Now I'm doing what I've learned from that company. That company really, really helped me. And for people to be able to speak about your company or whatever you're doing in your ministry, and say that you really helped them, got them back on course when they were off course, that's powerful. And that just goes on even while you a person after they pass and people are still talking about them. That just stays in the ears of God, or how great that man was or that woman was when they were here on this earth realm, not just thinking about himself or herself, but thinking about others, just thinking outside of the box. And so with a good vision, you can always tell that one thing about it, it's not selfish. It blesses others. So that's my share on the vision, Coach. Thank you. I pass the mic back over to you.
All right. And with that, I pass the mic over to Dee.
Vision is, wow, it's pretty big. Because you have to help others to see the vision, to see their part in the vision, to see how they're going to benefit from the vision, and to help them to realize that they deserve to be a part of it. I think part of the condition of humans is we really deep down inside don't always have a very good opinion of ourselves and what we believe we deserve and what we believe we don't. And you can give a person a wonderful vision, but if they don't believe they deserve it, they're going to self-sabotage. They're either going to self-sabotage themselves from having the position, or getting it, or getting near where they're trying to go, or once they do attain it, they won't be able to keep it because they don't believe that they deserve to be there. So part of it is to help everybody involved to see that we want to help them to grow personally as we're working with them, so that they feel a part of it. They're recognized. They're realizing, we would want to work with them individually to help them to see themselves in a much better way, to help them to always feel like they're competent and they can succeed, they can grow, they can become more. I guess that's pretty much it right now.
It's good.
Thank you, Dee. And with that, I pass the mic to So.
Still listening. Thank you for continuing to include me.
Oh, you're welcome. Perfect.
Yeah, this is really good stuff, and is helping me sort things out in my own head, and like with what I want to achieve in business as well as just in life. So thank you.
You're very welcome, So. And with that, I pass it to Coach C.
Yeah, absolutely. I think vision is like the center of gravity for everything, because everything is driven by the vision. That's why I was stating that I take advantage of asking that senior leader, you know, what does he believe? If he's a believer, because that will tell me what's guiding his vision, or if he's guiding his own vision, what's the source of his vision. I think that's important for people to understand about leadership, or who's leading them. What is the source of this leader's vision? I think that's critical for anybody, because that serves where the guidance is coming from, the source of the guidance. Vision serves as that principle for leaders when they got to make decisions. I want to know that this leader is not making decisions on his own or based off his opinion, but I want to identify that source. Is that source God? Is that source the Bible? Because if so, I can trust a leader. I'm willing to go great lengths with a leader whose vision is coming from that type of source. And in the book of Jeremiah, these leaders who were unfaithful to God's commands, they lacked clear vision. That's one of the reasons they were unfaithful, because they lacked clear vision. And then they made those decisions based on their own desires, their own self-interest. And that's what I was trying to get out of my senior leaders. Like, how are you basing these decisions? Or what is your philosophy, and how do you base your decisions? Are you basing them on your own desires, on your own self-interest? And on the other hand, those who are guided by a compelling vision are more likely to make decisions that align with long-term goals,
Mm-hmm.
and the values of the organization or the community or their faith. And that's important to me. So having a vision helps you focus on the priorities. To me, as a senior leader, if I have a vision, like every company I've always worked for, even outside of the military, the priorities were always easy to focus on because we had a clear vision that helped the leaders prioritize their efforts and all the resources. It wasn't, they wasn't winging it. You know what I'm saying? We had strategic objectives, and in Jeremiah's time, those leaders, they had misplaced priorities. Everybody was focusing on their own wealth and their own power, their own well-being. But a strong vision helps leaders to set clear goals and ensure that their actions are directed towards achieving those goals. And the vision also just helps mobilize people easier. In the military, we had senior leaders that were able to mobilize everybody. We had formation. We had a vision, where we were going, even during peacetime versus war. And it enabled them to mobilize, the team a lot easier than us not operating off some type of vision. And it was just easier to overcome a lot of challenges when you got a vision, because you can see light at the end of the tunnel. You can see your challenges, you can see your opposition. But when you don't have a vision, you can't see none of that. I mean, man, it's almost like, following the blind leading the blind. And I'll land there.
Well, thank you so much, Coach. And with that, I pass the mic to Ruth.
What this reminds me of is I've always had the thought throughout my entire life that the first thing you're mindful of in all situations is that one of the values is that you don't deliberately make a decision or have a vision everyone around us in the right way, and collectively, that is the only way to build a team that operates within that value statement of what I used to call first doing no harm as the guiding principle in everything that we do. And I think that for me has been the most important thing that I've always adhered to, no matter what circumstance I've been dealing with. It is operating in that way so that I can then be comfortable that I'm operating within a God-given purpose and a value for the whole of humanity, society, and the communities around us in the way that I operate in business and life as well. And I yield the mic.
Thank you so much. I love it. So I wanted to share on my website, I have a PDF and I refer to it as my Business Integrity 101 PDF. And it says, your vision, your mission. By creating your own vision and mission, you're beginning to create your possibility. First, follow the 8 steps and you'll be on your way to your own business. 8 steps to success. Dream and plan in the midst of each step. Create possibility. Your vision. Why do you want to create this? What do you want to aspire to? What impact will this have? What is what do you, when you're doing this in 3 years, what will it look like if what you are doing is working? Once again, what impact will this have? What do you aspire to? What do you want to create? And why? Your mission, what will you do and how will you achieve it? What can be used to evaluate current business activities and how do others think of you connected to this activity? So check this out. It's free. You can download it, print it out. It's kind of a fun sheet to look at. And with that, we go to false prophecy, 2 baskets of figs, 70 years of captivity, the cup of God's wrath, Jeremiah threatened with death, and Judah to serve Nebuchadnezzar. As we said before,
Coach, before you go on, I would love to share something in reference to the unrighteous leader.
Yep.
God uses that to prune the righteous. That's I just glanced, when you read that, that hit strongly with me as well, because the unrighteous leader, God can use it to prune the righteous. There are times when the righteous is sent into slavery, like the Jews, they were sent into Babylon for pruning. And it wasn't that easy, but yet God is able to send you in situations like that, and it humbles you. And it's just like having a boss. I don't know if you ever had a boss that was over you, and the boss wasn't kind, just wasn't a kind person at all. But yet the Lord was looking at your heart to see how you were going to respond to that unkind boss, how that boss was going to help you in life to be different, or to handle how you're going to handle your employees when you get in that position to lead. Leaders sometimes can do real rude things, but you have to look at it. If you are a righteous person, it's like, okay, God, are you using this situation that I'm in to help my attitude, to help me to be a better person when I get my own business? So the Lord, he does uses the unrighteous leader to prune the righteous. Even the Israelites, when they were in slavery for over 400 years, they had to be pruned, because when they went in, they were into worshiping idol gods and stuff, and God did not want them to have no other gods but them. And so they had to realize that he is the only God and no other God. So sometimes we got to go through storms, and those that are our taskmasters, or those that's over us, they may be very unkind, but God is really dealing with the person that he may be just dealing with your heart, and what and how he's going to prune you for leadership for the future. So I just wanted to make sure I shared that. That was on my mind when you read, God uses the unrighteous leader to prune the righteous. Back to you, Coach.
So once again, while God never ordains false leaders, he may use wicked leaders, even self-appointed ones, to perform his purposes. What an irony. God warns against false leaders and simultaneously uses an evil king, the Babylonian Nebuchadnezzar, to prune the people he calls his own. Jeremiah 27 helps us to see an important truth regarding how God carries out his will in history. Number one, his moral will. His moral will. God instructs us to lead with a heart of integrity. We must not lead without his approval, but it is our choice. We learn this lesson from the false prophets of Jeremiah's day. Second important truth, his sovereign will. God may choose to use any leader to accomplish his purposes. It is God's choice. We learn this lesson from King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. So then we jump into a false prophet, a letter to the exiles. And then inside of the letter to the exiles, we look at rewards. Leaders with integrity can remain optimistic. So this will be the piece that we bring up on Friday. I just want to leave you with this rumbling around in your noggin. It's from Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 11 to 14. And I'm going to read them, and then I'll read the Bible bubble, and then you can work on it. Okay. Chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me, and I will listen to you, and you will find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back from captivity. I will gather you from all the nations and places where I've banished you, declares the Lord. I will bring back the fruit may not come immediately, but it will come ultimately. Hallelujah. Remember the rewards. Leaders with integrity can remain optimistic. I love that. Such a powerful peacemaking verse. Bible bubble. All right. Sister Catherine, anything you want to say to wrap us up?
This has just been great, Coach. It's really helping us as leaders to make sure that we have things lined up and that we're correct. And our hearts need to be checked. We need to just daily just check our hearts, make sure, okay, Lord, am I lined up with your word? Am I lined up with your will? Am I being selfish? Am I making this decision because this is what I want and how it's going to benefit me and my family, and not thinking about others. So this really just calls us to check ourselves. We really have to check in and just see if we lined up with what the Father, because when you look at God has laid out for us, he's not a selfish God at all. He's always thought about us. And if we're made in his image and after his likeness, then he wants us to practice his ways of thinking. So thank you so very much, Coach, for setting this up, just causing leaders to think outside of the box, to think more for others than they do themselves, and want to be able to leave a great legacy here in this earth realm of helping people, and leaving something that people can just cling to and receive to be encouraging to one another. So thank you so very much. I pass the mic back over to you, Coach.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this hour. We're ending as close to 1:30 as I think we've ever ended. I want to thank, there are 33 people watching online, from 32 from X and 1 from my Facebook page. I want to thank Sister Gigi, Sister Carnell, Sister Ruth, Coach C, thank you so much. Brother So, thank you for being here. And Sister D, thank you for being here as well. Thank you for your stand. So thank you.
Thank you too, Coach. Thank you for the opportunity to continue to grow every day. And especially when it comes to leadership, because this lesson was awakening for me. It's just because you learn to look at not only yourself as a leader, but you can see what's happening with the leaders above you once you have understanding. Like unfaithfulness to God's word, lack of accountability, failure to seek God's guidance, neglect of justice and compassion. If you see a leader failure to report something and he's neglecting justice and he's not showing compassion, he's oppressing the poor, he's disregarding the needs of the vulnerable, then that this is not a leader. God is going to, you come into agreement with what God's plans are for this particular leader. He's not going to leave this person in position. And there's things that you can do too to not, co-sign on this type of leadership. And I think the biggest lesson is what not to do. So again, thanks again for this valuable lesson.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's great.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And, and I'm looking forward to, to Friday. Leaders with integrity can remain optimistic. Woo! I mean, this is great. This is wonderful. So thank you all, everybody. And with that, we're going to end today's class. And just super excited. Thank you, all of those of you on X that joined.